Hi, I'm Dilip Ramachandran, founder of NIMI and author of the book Gangsta Vision. I wrote Gangsta Vision because many of the people I mentored, they felt stuck in their career. And it's the same thing I felt many years ago. And they felt they want to do more, but they don't know how to break through. How do you get into leadership? And for me, it was a collection of stories. That's why it started. And ended up being actually a framework, which I call Gangsta Vision, as a way for someone to identify their career path, create a roadmap for it, and then just go get it and unleash themselves. So I'm doing this audio series, which is some book readings. And today I'm going to read chapter 3, History Shapes the Future, from Gangsta Vision. All right, let's go. Product management came from soap. Yes, you heard that right. Product management took its roots from the once famous soap brand Chip Soap, produced by Procter & Gamble P&G back in the 1950s. During World War II, P&G's operations were disrupted by supply shortages, leading to the most demanded packaged soap to vanish from store shelves until the end of the war. But once the product supply was restored, the market forgot the old favorite Chip soap. Sadly, that forced P&G to discontinue the line. This fiasco was not so much driven by the supply chain disruption, but rather connected to an organizational design issue at P&G. Because market feedback traveled to the top too slowly, the executive team was disconnected from the consumer realities. This made it difficult for brands to build customer loyalty. Sound familiar? In 1931, Neil McElroy, a Harvard graduate, moved to Cincinnati to work at P&G, where he was responsible for the Chemay brand of soap. Neil did not believe he had access to the levers or resources to drive performance, but he had a simple idea. What if a large corporation had created a portfolio of products competing with each other? What framework would empower the leaders of these brands to acquire the resources they needed to unleash their products' potential? Neil's belief was P&G had to become decentralized and move autonomy to brand managers who would use a metrics mindset to allow brands to compete. In return, this would drive customer loyalty and overall business unit performance. Neil's definition of the brand man, a precursor to the modern product manager, was shared in a now famous 3-page memo. The solution was to put the decision maker as close as possible to the customer. With deeper empathy for the customer, these leaders used targeted advertising programs to drive sales for these products. They could use these metrics to convince the executives at P&G to justify investment in resources. And it worked, giving Neil his place on Time's cover, influencing business leaders and product management for generations to come. So this actually was really fun to do this research when I was writing the book at this time. There's actually so much content about the story, but it was actually a bit hard to find a source for it. And I finally found some PDF and cutting from the Time website, which was actually also hard to find. But when I did find it, I was able to then read the entire article. It's a long article, and I extracted some of the really great insights. So I'll keep going. When you unpack what Neil did, he made the game fair for product managers at P&G. It was a level playing field. Any product manager could get access to the resources to grow their products if they could use the metrics to prove these products had market traction. We still use this technique today in our product management practice to justify the allocation of capital, money, or resources on initiatives with the most potential. Even if you had the ear of an important executive or the awe-inspiring presentational ability of a Cirque du Soleil acrobat, if the numbers don't connect with the story, it is a red flag. This is particularly useful in high-volume manufacturing environments where the capital expense upfront is really high. Think Tesla, think manufacturing medicine, or think drone manufacturing, high upfront cost. As Martin Erickson described in his book Product Leadership, by the way, Martin's book, he also went quite a bit detail into research. I saw it after I actually wrote my book, and it was a good read that you should think about. Neil goes on to mentor David Packard and Bill Hewlett to create the Hewlett-Packard Way, the timeless principles that set company values for the entire organization to follow. This policy is credited to the 50-year record of unbroken 20% year-on-year growth between 1943 and 1993. It's amazing for a big company, right? Erickson also shares in his book the fascinating story of Toyota engineer Yuji Yokoha, I love this one, who attempted to build the best minivan product out there, drove a Sienna more than 53,000 miles across the United States. Talk about building customer empathy. Not only driving a car that much, but driving a Sienna. It's a big one. It's a minivan. I told my wife about getting a minivan, and she said, "No way." We see Yokoha-san's product management craft still practiced today, as DoorDash reinstated WeDash during the pandemic. WeDash is a program tracing its birth to 2013, when the company wanted all employees to be extremely connected to the buyer experience and help build the best products out there. Through WeDash, every DoorDash employee takes a turn delivering food or groceries to get first-hand intelligence on how to improve the products they are working on. There's no denial of Neil's influence on Toyota and Kaizen, which is the Japanese business philosophy of continuous improvement of working practices and personal efficiency. And Neil is credited with the success of large-scale manufacturing. History shapes our future. Any product manager today will mention being data-driven and having a metrics mindset when they walk you through their resume. But I don't think that works anymore. When building digital products, we don't have the high capital costs and the burden of supply chain operations you find in traditional manufacturing. As this has reduced the barrier to entry for experimentation, we have seen some product ideas grow like wildfire. Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonymous person or persons who authored the Bitcoin white paper and the resulting reference implementation. This product was not based on extensive user research studies or a thorough analysis of the adoption of the banking system. It was born from a purpose to build an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any true willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. Straight from the Bitcoin paper. That's the thesis, right? In the late 2000s, internet banking was already adopted globally. A product manager looking at this trend data would not have stumbled on the idea for Bitcoin. Similarly, a product manager wouldn't look at data about Pokemon cards or baseball trading cards to come up with an idea for non-fungible tokens. It's actually a little bit of a pet peeve. I went through this book so many times, reviewed it, read it aloud so many times, and there's a typo in here. Instead of NFTs, I say NTFs. Oh. I'll fix it in the edition. All right, back to the reading. Let's look at another example. The 9 movies in the Spider-Man franchise had a lifetime return on investment of 394% worldwide. If you look closely at the data, since the release of the first movie in 2002, domestic US revenues have steadily declined despite faring moderately worldwide. Even though production costs declined for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, this movie barely broke even at the box office. If you watched any of the movies leading up to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you would know they suffered from the same repetitive storyline. The data showed consumers, at least domestically, didn't appreciate that. But this trend was reversed with the release of Spider-Man Homecoming, which benefited from the tailwinds of the success of the Marvel franchise in which Spider-Man was on the roster. So a purely metrics-driven product manager would not make the decision to create a movie such as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This movie had a completely different art style and music palette and featured minority characters who, by being the minority, would never sway the vote on any market research. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse performed admirably at the box office, paving the way for new faces such as Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen in the franchise, serving as primary characters. These characters have gone on to be featured in the Disney Plus television series, Spidey and His Amazing Friends, and a lineup of Lego sets my daughter is more than happy for me to purchase for her. Yep, she has a set, and she loves it. This movie served a much larger purpose, to bring diversity and representation to entertainment experiences with characters with whom more children can find familiarity. These 2 examples should create doubt that a metrics-only mindset is sufficient. In this book, I suggest it would be naive of any senior leader to make product strategy decisions purely on quantitative and qualitative data with a metrics-only mindset. You must broaden your mindset and think and act like a missionary to unlock a path to senior leadership. Just as Neil played a role in evolving P&G, we all play a role in evolving the craft of product management and ushering it through a renaissance. After all, we have moved from bar soap to body wash, so it's about time a product management craft evolved as well. Before we get to the craft, we need to think about ourselves, particularly about how personal history influences the craft. I invite you to come along with me on my story and take a few moments to reflect on your journey as well. So that'll be in a future reading when I talk about that part. But I hope that was interesting for you and kind of enjoyed taking a walk down history lane for product management. What do you think about my hypothesis? What do you think about metrics plus a missionary mindset? What are your thoughts? Ask in the comments. Share the video if you loved it with others who could enjoy it, and give me your comments about what you'd like me to read from the book next. Thanks. Bye bye.